He thinks about you in silence, not in texts, not in calls, not in likes or comments. Silence is a strange kind of presence. It doesn't scream, it doesn't beg, it doesn't explain, it just lingers. And in that silence, he replays the last conversation. He remembers the words he didn't say, the apology he never made, and the love he never fully showed. But he won't tell you that. Pride keeps him quiet. Ego keeps him distant. But silence is not forgetfulness. It's often proof of emotional weight. See, most people think if someone's not talking to you, they've moved on. But silence is deceptive. Some of the loudest emotions are felt in stillness. When he lays in bed and the world slows down, that's when your name returns. Not because you reached out, not because he scrolled through your photos, but because he remembers. And memory is a strange force. It doesn't ask permission. It just arrives. It pulls him back into moments he thought he buried. That laugh, that look, the way you supported him without asking for anything in return. But here's the truth. He doesn't reach out because he doesn't know how to handle the version of you that no longer waits. He thinks about you, but he's unsure if you even recognize him anymore. You've changed. You've grown. And that scares him more than losing you did. He wonders if the silence that used to hurt you is now the silence that protects you. So yes, he thinks about you. He thinks about what could have been if he had chosen growth over ego. He thinks about what he would say if he had one more shot. But thought is not action. And sometimes what haunts a person the most is knowing they can never go back to what they didn't value in time. He thinks about you, just not out loud. Memories don't disappear just because someone stops showing up. You can unfollow a person, delete the messages, block the number, but the mind, it's not that obedient. It holds on to what mattered, even when you try to convince yourself it didn't. And that's where he is, living in the shadow of what used to be. He may be out there smiling, pretending everything is good, convincing the world he's moved on. But when the distractions fade, it's your memory that creeps in. You weren't just a face. You weren't just another face in the crowd. You were a moment that left a mark. And the truth is, real connections don't fade with distance or time. They linger. They visit you when you least expect them. He could be driving, laughing, or sitting with someone else, and then suddenly a song plays, a phrase slips out, a scent floats by, and there you are, present, without warning. You see, the human mind doesn't just archive love, it stores it. It reflects it in patterns, in behaviors, in avoidance. So when he finds himself repeating your words, mimicking your habits, or getting annoyed by how nobody feels the same, that's not coincidence. That's residue. The residue of a woman who gave her all and walked away when it wasn't returned. He tries to act like he doesn't care, but his subconscious won't let go. That's why he compares. That's why no one else feels as easy, as safe, as powerful as what he had with you. He remembers how you understood him before he could explain, how your silence comforted him more than someone else's words ever could. And those things, they don't fade. They sit quietly in the background, reminding him of what he didn't appreciate when he had it. There's a part of him that hopes you think about him too, but the irony is, the longer he waits to make that move, the more the distance grows. Because memories may stay, but access doesn't. Just because he still feels you doesn't mean he still deserves you. He remembers you, not just who you were with him, but who he was when he was with you. And that feeling, that version of himself, he's chasing it now in empty places with people who only see the surface, because the depth you gave, that wasn't ordinary. That was unforgettable. There's something unsettling about realizing you only understand the value of someone once they've already walked away. That's the moment clarity hits him. Not during the arguments, not in the moments of distance, But after the final goodbye, after the silence becomes permanent, after the door that used to be cracked open slowly shuts for good, and suddenly what he took for granted becomes all he can think about. At first, he convinced himself he'd be fine without you. He thought you'd come back, that you'd fold, that you'd miss him more than he missed you. He believed the love you gave him would always be waiting on the other side of his pride, so he stayed quiet. He played tough. He lived in ego. And ego loves to lie. It tells you you're winning when you're really just bleeding quietly. But then one day, something shifts. It could be a small thing, a memory, a place, even a question someone asks. And suddenly, he's confronted by the truth. You're really gone. Not physically gone, emotionally gone. Moved on, evolved, detached. And that hits differently because now he can feel the absence, not just of you, but of who he was when he was with you. That's what he misses most. That version of himself that had purpose, that felt seen, supported, challenged. You weren't just someone he loved. You were someone who made him better, even when he didn't want to admit it. He thinks about how steady you were, how you stayed even when things got messy, how you chose understanding over argument, patience over pressure. And now, the silence you've given him, it's not empty. It's loud. Loud with a sound of regret, of missed chances, of lessons learned too late. He realizes he had access to something rare, something most men spend a lifetime chasing. And he lost it not because of what you lacked, but because of what he refused to confront within himself. He let his comfort lie to him. He thought he had time, but time doesn't wait for people to grow up. Time rewards those who move forward, who choose growth, who know their worth. And now he sees it. You walking away wasn't a loss for you. It was freedom. It was peace. It was the beginning of your next level. And for him, it became a mirror, a brutal reflection of how he mishandled something sacred. That's what regret feels like. It shows up not just in pain, but in clarity, in realizing that what you pushed away was actually what you needed most. And no matter how many people he tries to replace you with, they all fall short. Not because they're not good enough, but because he's still haunted by the one woman who showed up, stayed real, and then chose herself when he knows it now, and it's that knowing that keeps him awake at night. Not just missing you, but wishing he had been ready when you were. As he didn't expect your silence to speak louder than your words ever did. See, most people assume closure comes with one final conversation, one last confrontation, a neatly wrapped goodbye. But sometimes the loudest statement you can ever make is no statement at all. No text, no call, no explanation, just peace. Just presence, absent from his life. When that silence, it's powerful because he's used to noise, used to someone checking in, someone caring, someone chasing. He's used to you showing up even when you were the one hurting, used to your consistency, your nurturing, that quiet strength you carried every day. But now, there's nothing. No late night calls. No messages asking if he's okay. No energy poured into his potential. And he feels it, even if he pretends he doesn't. It's in the pauses of his day, when no one's there to remind him to eat, when no one celebrates the small wins with him, when no one asks the deep questions, the ones that made him feel like someone really saw him. He didn't realize how much your presence grounded him until your absence became the air he had to breathe. And here's the truth. He's still watching. Maybe not with a like, maybe not with a comment, but from a distance. He watches the glow up, the healing, the way your smile returned, the way you started becoming her again, the woman you were before he began dimming your light. That version of you, that woman who walks with purpose now, who's no longer waiting for his apology to move forward, that version haunts him. Because you didn't just walk away, you evolved. And that evolution reminds him of everything he didn't rise to. Every time he could have chosen you but chose comfort. Every time he could have communicated but chose silence. Now the roles have reversed, and the silence is his burden to carry. What he didn't understand then is that the woman who chooses peace over proving her point is already gone. Not physically, maybe, but emotionally, spiritually. She's outgrown the space he kept her in. And that type of departure is permanent because it doesn't come from anger, it comes from clarity. And clarity doesn't go back to confusion. When he feels it now, when he scrolls through your feed, when mutual friends mention you, when your name comes up in casual conversation, and there's no bitterness, no pain, just peace. That peace, it hits different. Because he knows it cost you something to get there, and now he finally realizes he didn't lose you when you left. He lost you when he stopped appreciating you. The silence just confirmed it. There comes a moment in every man's life when he sits in silence and finally realizes she was irreplaceable. And it's not just about her beauty or the way she laughed or even the way she held him down when things got hard. It's about something deeper. It's about how she made him feel when he was at his lowest. It's about how she stayed when she had every reason to walk away. It's about how she gave when she was already running on empty. And now that she's no longer there, he's left searching for that same energy in places and people who simply don't carry it. He goes out, he meets new people. He entertains the idea that someone else could step in and fill that space. But it doesn't take long before he realizes they don't see him the way she did. They don't challenge him. They don't inspire him to grow. They don't call out his excuses or hold him accountable to the man he said he wanted to be. They just exist beside him. And he starts to understand the difference between company and connection, between attention and intent. See, what he's missing now can't be found in another body. It's not physical, it's emotional, it's spiritual. It's the peace she brought into his life when everything around him felt chaotic. It's the encouragement she whispered into his soul when he doubted himself. It's the safety he felt in her presence, the kind of safety a man rarely admits he needs, but knows when it's gone. And once he loses that, every substitute starts to feel like a distraction. He's searching for something that used to be his, and now he sees it wasn't just love. It was alignment. It was purpose. Because she didn't just love him, she believed in him. She saw greatness in him when he only saw potential. She spoke life into his dreams. And now, without that voice, his world feels a little quieter. The compliments from others don't hit the same. The support doesn't feel as real. And the more he compares, the more he sees no one else brings what she brought. No one else matches her presence. That's when regret starts to take root. Because you can't replace something divine with something convenient. He thought she was just another chapter, but now he knows she was the story. And he let the story go while looking for a plot twist. He let real love slip away because he wasn't ready for what it demanded. And now, everything else feels like a copy of something that can't be duplicated. He might smile in public. He might act unbothered. But deep down, he knows. He lost the one who didn't just touch his heart, she touched his soul. And when a man loses that kind of connection, he can spend a lifetime trying to find it again, but it will never look, sound, or feel quite the same. There's something powerful about a woman who reclaims her life. A woman who once gave everything, her time, her love, her patience, her loyalty, and then suddenly, without warning, she stops. She stops chasing, she stops explaining, she stops waiting. And that shift, It doesn't just rattle the man who once took her for granted, it wakes him up because he remembers a version of her that revolved around him, a version that bent without breaking, that stayed long after the respect left the room. She was there, even when it hurt her. She stood by him while he figured himself out. She was loyal to the potential of who he could be rather than the reality of who he was. And when she finally walked away, something in him shifted too. Now he sees her in a different light. Not the girl who needed him, but the woman who survived him. The one who glowed up in silence. The one who became stronger, not bitter. Wiser, not colder. And she did it all without trying to prove a point. Because her growth wasn't about revenge, it was about release. She released the pain, released the hope that he would one day become who she dreamed he could be, released the burden of carrying a relationship by herself. And in that release, she found her power. And now that power haunts him, not because she became louder, but because she became still. Still and unstoppable. Still and unshaken. She doesn't flinch when his name comes up. She doesn't feel the need to defend herself anymore. She's moved on. And not in the petty way people pretend. They've moved on with clarity, with grace, with truth. And that truth is this: she outgrew the version of her that settled for less. He sees it. He sees her walking differently, speaking differently. There's a peace on her face he doesn't recognize, because it's the kind of peace that only comes from healing, from self-worth, from knowing your value and refusing to settle again. And that reality hits him in waves. She's no longer the woman he left behind. She's the woman he can't reach anymore, because now she knows what she brings to the table, and she's no longer begging anyone to sit at it. He realizes too late that the version of her who loved him the deepest is gone. And the woman she's become, she won't make the same mistake twice. He wanted her weak. He got her strong. And strength doesn't chase validation. Strength doesn't look back. Strength just walks forward, unapologetically. And that's what keeps him thinking about her long after she's stopped thinking about him. There's a moment every man experiences when silence becomes louder than words. When he scrolls through his phone and sees her name, but doesn't message. When he replays the conversations in his mind that used to bring him comfort. When he drives past the places they used to go, and every street corner whispers her memory back into his chest. He won't say it out loud, but the truth is, he still wonders. Still wonders if she ever thinks about him the way he thinks about her. He starts to notice things differently now, a scent that reminds him of her perfume, a song on the radio that used to play when she was riding shotgun, a phrase someone says that she used to say all the time. And that's when it hits him. She's still there. Not physically, but emotionally. Deep in the corners of his mind that he thought were reserved for the present, she lingers. Not because he hasn't met someone new, but because no one new makes him feel the way she did. She had a way of seeing through him. Not just the image he projected to the world, but the raw, unfiltered version of himself. The version that was insecure, unsure, afraid of being not enough. And she loved him anyway. Not in pieces, not in potential, but completely. And now that he's alone, that kind of love echoes. It doesn't disappear when the body leaves. It lingers when the soul gets touched. He might pretend. He might keep posting like life's good. He might act like he's healed, like he's over it. But the truth, he's haunted by the woman who chose to walk away without making a scene, without trying to make him jealous. Without needing closure, because closure isn't always a conversation. Sometimes it's a woman becoming so silent, so at peace, so unavailable that her absence becomes the loudest thing in his life. And now the silence is deafening. He scrolls, hoping for a sign, maybe a post, maybe a quote, Maybe something that tells him she still misses me, but she doesn't pose for attention anymore. She poses from healing, from joy, from a place he no longer belongs to. And that burns in a way he never expected because he thought she'd always be there. He thought she'd always care. And now he realizes she doesn't owe him that anymore. He starts to question the choices he made, not just walking away, but failing to appreciate her while she was right there. He realizes that attention is cheap, but presence is priceless. She was present through his chaos, through his moods, through his confusion. She stayed. And now that she's gone, he finally sees the difference between love that tolerates and love that transforms. She was the transforming kind, and that's what keeps him thinking. Not because he wants to fix it, but because deep down, he knows no one else has loved him like she did. And no one else will. Sometimes the moment that changes everything is the one he never expected. The moment he sees her glow without him. She's not just moving on, she's rising. Her smile isn't forced, her peace isn't performative, it's real. And for the first time, he sees what healing actually looks like. Not in him, but in her. It's not loud, it's not petty, it's quiet strength. That's what gets to him. She's no longer trying to prove anything, not to him, not to the world. She's simply free. He never imagined that the woman who once begged for his attention would become the woman who doesn't even need his presence. He underestimated the power of a woman who chooses herself. When she was in his life, he thought she needed him to be whole, but now he sees she was already whole. She just loved him so deeply, she made space for him in that wholeness. Now, that space is closed, not out of hate, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. He watches her grow. Maybe not directly, maybe through friends, maybe through the occasional post, but he sees it, the confidence in her walk, the softness in her voice that doesn't break anymore, the boundary she now holds with grace. She's no longer accessible, and that's what eats at him. Because when a woman stops explaining, stops chasing, stops apologizing for her standards, that's when he realizes he's lost something rare. The hardest part for him isn't that she moved on, it's that she moved on without needing to be replaced. She didn't jump to the next man. She didn't broadcast a new relationship just to fill the void. No, she chose solitude. She chose stillness. She chose to rebuild herself brick by brick, boundary by boundary. And now she walks with a different energy, the kind of energy that says, I've healed what you broke. I've outgrown what you couldn't handle. He used to think she was emotional, too intense, too much. Now he sees she just loved deeply. And in a world that confuses detachment with strength, he realizes too late that her vulnerability was power. That kind of love, the type that forgives, that holds space, that stands in the storm. It's not weak, it's sacred, and now it's gone. That's the truth he lives with now. Not just that she's gone, but that she became everything he couldn't be. While he stayed stuck, she soared. While he repeated cycles, she broke patterns. While he waited for distractions to numb the loss, she faced it head on and came out transformed. He doesn't just miss her, he respects her. Quietly, from a distance. Because deep down, he knows he didn't lose a woman. He lost a force. It starts to hit him when he's alone. Not when he's out with friends, not when he's busy pretending everything is fine, but in the quiet moments, the in-between. Late at night, when the world is still and there's no one left to distract him. That's when her absence is loudest. Not just because she's gone, but because she stayed gone. That kind of silence, that kind of consistency, it speaks louder than any goodbye. And it breaks something in him he didn't know could break. He's used to people coming back. He's used to doors that never really close, but hers did. Not with a bang, not with a storm, but with stillness. And that stillness became a mirror, a reflection of everything he refused to face in himself. She was the last one who saw him fully and still chose to stay for a time. But he took that love for granted, thought it would always be there. Now he's realizing just how rare it was. He checks her page sometimes, pretends he doesn't, but he does. Looks for signs, hopes for clues. Anything that says she's still watching, still thinking, still caring, but there's nothing. And it's not out of malice, it's out of maturity. She's not playing games. She's just done. That's what haunts him. She didn't leave because she stopped loving. She left because she started loving herself more. That shift, that awakening, it changed everything. And now he's left chasing a ghost of who she used to be. But ghosts don't come back. And neither does she. He starts to realize it wasn't the relationship he misses, it was the peace she brought. The way her presence settled his chaos. The way she believed in the version of him he never became. That's the part that lingers, the regret. Because when a woman loves you in your becoming, and you take that for granted, you don't just lose a partner, you lose a reflection of your potential. She believed in him more than he believed in himself. Pushed him when he got lazy. Challenged him when he played small. And in return, all she asked was for him to show up. Not perfectly, just honestly. But he couldn't, or wouldn't. And now he's left with the silence of his own choices. That's the part he can't escape. Not the memories, not the missed calls, but the truth that she never needed him to be perfect. Just present. And now, without her presence, he's realizing just how absent he was. He can feel it now, a deep understanding that's impossible to ignore. He didn't just lose someone. He lost a person who was the only one who truly saw him. And it's not the loss of her love that eats at him. It's the realization that she was the only one who gave him space to grow, to make mistakes, and to be a better version of himself, without the pressure to perform, without the need to be perfect. And that's rare. That's the kind of love that doesn't just disappear. It sticks with you, quietly, but it stays. She wasn't just there for the good times. She didn't just celebrate his wins. She was there when he faltered, when he failed. She didn't just pick him up. She believed in him when he couldn't even believe in himself. But the truth is, he took her for granted. He thought there would always be time to change, to show up differently, to prove himself. He thought her love would wait. But love like that doesn't wait. It moves, it evolves, it grows into something else, and it leaves when it's no longer nourished. Now he's left with this quiet storm of guilt, of missed opportunities. He's played out the what-ifs, the could-haves, and the should-haves in his mind a million times. He sees all the moments he could have stepped up, all the times he could have done better, all the times he didn't appreciate what was right in front of him. And the worst part is, he can't go back. He can't change the past. He can't fix what's already been broken. What he didn't realize in the moment was that her love wasn't just a feeling. It was a reflection of her strength, her values, her boundaries. She wasn't waiting for him to be perfect. She wasn't waiting for him to change everything about himself. She was waiting for him to recognize the value of what she was offering. But he didn't see it. Not fully. Not until she was gone. Now, he has his empty space. Not just the space where she used to be, but the space inside him that's filled with the understanding of his own limitations. It's a hard truth to swallow, but it's the truth. He wasn't the man she deserved. He wasn't the partner she needed. And while it's painful, it's also a wake-up call. It's an invitation to change, to be the kind of person who shows up, not just in relationships, but in life. To be the kind of person who recognizes the value of the love and support that's offered and who appreciates it while it's still there. Because when you lose someone who saw you, truly saw you, and loved you anyway, you don't just lose a partner, you lose a mirror that reflected not just who you were, but who you could have been. And that's a loss that doesn't go away. It stays with you, reminding you to do better, to show up more, to never take love for granted again. And that in itself is a lesson he won't forget.